Well, good evening. This is Pops. Time now is 1932 on Friday. What is it? Oh, May 17th. Well, I've talked about it for a while about using a horn button and a condenser, attaching them and turning them into points of condenser to test coils. Believe it or not, this is a coil pack out of a industrial 2.3 Ford. Distributorless ignition. Yep, has a pickup on the front crank. Has a little control box on there too. But I was only getting spark on 2 and 3, not 1 and 4. It just seemed odd though, and there were times that even that waned, and I was like trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Oops, let me check here. Okay, good. Now, so what I did was power. See down there? That's a 12 volt DEWALT battery. Red is positive. Black and blue is negative. Now, black comes up here to the switch, correct? And the hot goes straight through. Alright? I've designed it to go straight through from the red right on up to the center post that's hot, red in the machine. Then it goes back just like it's going to the points. Now on this side, I believe it is, this comes back into the points. The condenser is hooked up here as well. The other side is hooked for ground. So the condenser and the return from coil is connected to one side. The ground going back to the battery is on the other side. And that's how this puppy works. Now right now, look at that. Okay. Now in this case, this is a crossfire. So you see the spark plug there and spark plug here. They fire together. Why? Because one plug is ground and one plug is hot. They kind of make a loop for themselves if you look in the diagram. Now you see that's only one set. That is correct. So I wanted to be sure that the coil worked. You see I switched sides. I put the yellow as the hot and blue as the ground, and the other two spark plugs fire. So there's nothing wrong with the coil. What made me do this was they had a battery hookup and all this other stuff, and it's just stuff wasn't making sense with the schematic. And then when I did some research, the schematic isn't exactly for this machine. The only one I could get my hands on was for 2.5. Nearly identical engine, but I think it has a slightly bigger bore or longer stroke. I can't remember which. But the exterior is identical. The systems are almost identical, but the 2.5 is fuel injected. The 2.3 has a distributor ignition and a distributorless ignition. Well, I can't get a book and any information on this one. Both 2.3s are carbureted. Electronic throttles. So we had trouble with the electronic throttle before, and the funny thing is the RPM sensing comes off of the hot lead here to go back and feed it, and also one of these leads to run the spark plugs. Look at that again. See how hot that spark is? Isn't that sweet? Off a DEWALT battery. I kid you not, 12 volt DEWALT. It's a beautiful thing. Switch sides. All I have to do is switch the ground. Now remember, I've looked at some schematics for this. Now, of course, it's not consistent. It's a doggone horn button. And that horn button is 30 years old. 35? And it's still going. So is the condenser. So, I figured just for the fun of it, I'd show you folks what I've been talking about for the longest time. You can test a coil yourself. Now, why I put spades is to plug in here, but I have a couple of gators, or duckbill clips, that I actually originally cut off of there. And they wouldn't hook up well enough for what I wanted to do. So if I want to do it with batteries, I just put the female side of the spade on there, clip onto there, and I can hook the thing up to any car battery if I want. That's the next part of the equation, but believe it or not, this is the standby. Don't put 20 volts on there, you'll blow something. But at first I thought I had something because I had the switch hooked up wrong. I went to connect and it would snap. So I pulled it directly off. I didn't want it with, you don't want these with power all the time. They have a duty cycle, so to speak. They said, well, it's just like having power on all the time. Yes, but no. with electricity, it makes a difference. But there you are, hot wire straight through to the coil. Just like your round coil. When you turn the key on, juice goes to the plus with a negative ground machine on the coil directly. But the ground side has the points and condenser on it. And what do? They go in through to the points, and where they connect to the points, they connect to the condenser as well on the same stud. So that's where they are here. On the other side of the points, now they go back to your ground through the distributor. Well, this is distributorless. It grounds through the pack. Some other guys have tried to ground the thing to make it work better. I saw the brackets. The people have played with this thing, got it working. And hopefully what I can do is find out what the actual problem is. What's it's starting to look like now is that there may be a ground problem inside the control unit itself, if not a ground wire from the control unit. So I have to go scope that out. But in this case, I needed to know the coil was good, and I don't have a proper schematic. Well, if I don't, then I have to start ruling things out one by one that are the original problem. Number 1 and number 4 didn't have spark. Well, that's 4. That's 1. That's right, that's 4. And that's 1. So, what do we know? It works. Anyway, that's Pops out in the man cave. Now, to do this, these connectors, they came out of this MATCO kit, was relatively expensive. MD146. And I've used the snap-on meter. I've got an incredibly beautiful Mac meter. That is a sweetheart. But for you guys that like to do simple stuff, you might do AC and DC around the house. That Fluke 101 is the sweetest meter for the money you will ever find. They have a 105, a 107, and they're both great too. But that one, I don't even think I think I paid $75 for the thing. It was something ridiculously cheap, and it's accurate as can be. Okay, now these wires don't all come in here. 2 of them do. There's 2 jumper leads that go in here. But these are all the different little connectors all the way down through here. Nothing's in the way. Round, square, flat. Even the old-fashioned stuff is over here. Bullet connectors, spades, and spade female, spade male. So everything's in that kit. And this one's going to go with me more often because I seem to be getting into more electrical stuff lately. A lot of people think that there's a mystery to electricity when there can be a mystery. But basically it's what's your path from positive to negative. I know the purists, you science types, it's negative to positive. Well, for some reason commercially they seem to have switched it. I don't believe it, but that's the way they handle it. And last but not least, you see that plate there? Let's see, it's marked IH. 414 is the number under there. I pressure test these on International Harvester tractors. I have a plug over in the kit for pressure testing, and this is for 414, 436, 466 International heads. I used to have another plasma torch, but I cut that out with. And when you use plasma, oh, is it smooth? No, I didn't use straight edge. It didn't have to be perfect. On the other side, rubber mat. Well, that's going to have to be replaced. I glued it on there. Doesn't need to be glued on there at all. So that's going to get hung up on my wall. Yep, there they are. There's my other plates. John Deere M40 420, WD Alice Chalmers WD45, and the 2 plates I think are for a John Deere head. Now I lost them. I used to have plates for, what was it? Oh, John Deere 1010 diesel. I had to test quite a few of those for McFadden's years ago. Well, anyway, I figured I'd show it. I've talked about it enough. There it is. It's just a regular old push-button switch, believe it or not. I have one on my snapper for the starter. They're supposed to handle 50 or 60 amps. Well, that's a lot more than what I need here. And that's a condenser off any old Kohler engine. After any tractor, your WDs, or any of those, that coil condenser generally works. In fact, see that? It works so well, it's jumping both gaps and the gap here. So, I know the coil works, because that's just a 12, 13 volt battery. All right. Catch you later. Hope you learned something.